So thank you so much for being with us here, Michael. Before we talk about the pushback, do we know what the DOJ team is looking for? Who's going to review these responses from these potentially hundreds of thousands of employees?
That's the question. I mean, in your tweet, in Musk's tweet that you just showed, it said there have been good responses. The thing is, there's been no definition about what good responses are, what would qualify as an employee keeping their job. The legality of this issue is questionable. I don't think it is legal to threaten employees' jobs for not responding or not providing good responses. It's an entire, unprecedented issue for a questionable, whether Musk is an employee or not of the government. It's questionable for him to basically be directing this to government agencies, and then government agency leaders are confused as well about whether or not to direct their employees to respond. So, it's certainly just a confusing issue for these employees that have gone through a lot throughout these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so let's talk more about that, some of this pushback. I mean, even newly minted FBI Director Kash Patel told his employees to pause any responses to the memo. So, Michael, there really seems to be some disconnect here.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot of communication. I think Musk apparently did this based on the president's push for Musk to be more aggressive. But Musk's actions here are really in disregard to federal regulations and those civil service protections for federal employees. For the FBI and other, sensitive agencies, those employees really need to be careful about what they put in an email. So I believe that's partly part of what Director Patel's message was to his employees, is to not respond, and some of these other agencies as well.
So we know that Elon Musk has promised transparency. We also know that the first comprehensive public listing of the billions of dollars in purported savings also has errors, things like contracts that had not yet been awarded, or there's one sum of money that's listed multiple times. So there really does, Michael, seem to be quite a bit of confusion surrounding what DOJ is actually accomplishing. Do you have any insight?
I think there's a confusion across the board. There hasn't really been clear communication, not only to the employees like we talked about, but to the government leaders, the heads of these agencies that are telling their employees not to respond to, emails that have been put out, to certain directives for employees. There's been other directives about returning to work and when employees can return to work, and there's been miscommunication on that. So I think the just communication across the board from DOJ and from Elon Musk and what to actually listen to has been confusing for everybody.
All right, so over the weekend, President Trump suggested that Elon Musk needs to be even more aggressive. But we are seeing polling for both Trump and Elon Musk that shows Americans aren't necessarily liking what they are doing. There's a new Reuters Ipsos poll that shows 32% of voters approve of Trump's performance on inflation. That's 32%. 53% of the country opposes what they are seeing from DOJ, 53%. So do you think, Michael, that these poll numbers could potentially have an impact on what happens next?
It could. I think a lot of people, voted for Trump because they wanted more efficiency. They wanted a decreased government workforce. But I think the issue that American voters and American people are having is the way it's been done over the past month and the quick and rapid actions against federal regulations. You saw the mass termination of federal employees, and that's results in many lawsuits, from probationary employees into even just non-probationary employees. And you saw Trump fire heads of agencies. I think a joint chief of staff was recently removed. And I think that the quickness regarding those actions and just, not complying with certain rules and not taking the proper steps is what people have taken people off guard. And I think that, the American voters may dictate that Trump does take this a different route and maybe comes back and complies with federal regulations on how to actually reduce the workforce in the proper way.
All right, well, an attorney specializing in federal employment law, Michael Fallings, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.